Thank you all for coming tonight. What's up? How's everybody doing? Hey, we're going to do something. I say diverse, you say network. Diverse.
Network.
Diverse.
Network.
Wow. Who had some tacos? Anyone have some tacos? Tacos were fire. Anyone have met a great connection? Anyone meet some good connections?
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, thank you all for being here today. I can't thank each and every one of you guys enough for being a part of this special event. I'm so honored to kind of be up here and share kind of my story, and just a lot of you guys have heard, what is the Diverse Network and why the Diverse Network and how it all started. And I know you guys heard a little bit about this story, but really it just started with me wanting to connect everyone in my network to each other. And at the same time, I was thinking, what can I do to really support the multicultural community here in Columbus? And you guys showed up for this event. Give yourself a round of applause. So really, here at the Diverse Network, I just want to share with you guys what we've been working on with our vision, our mission, and our core values, to really explain, what we're exactly doing. And so our vision is to create a safe and inclusive environment for community to find resources, jobs, and meaningful connections. And our mission is to help our community discover and support multicultural businesses, entrepreneurs, and influential leaders. And we have the core values that I think each and every one of you guys embody, and that is to be you. And one of the things that I know about networking events, it can often be so overwhelming. And even for me, there's times that I go to these events and I'm just like, how am I going to be myself? And really you face those fears and those anxieties. But that's why I wanted to talk about the courage to create change, because it takes courage each and every day to overcome your fears, your anxieties, your struggles. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to have a great discussion panel as well. And we want to empower others. And so that's why I'm really thinking about the core values. What are we really doing here and why are we doing it? And so that's to inspire growth. And that ultimately, at the end of the day, really want to impact our community. I do want to share just a little bit about kind of my story. And my story starts with my name, Jordan Akio Nishizaki. And Akio means bright, clear, husband, and man in Japanese. And why this is so special to me is I was named after my grandpa, Akio Nishizaki. And just kind of his story and how it inspired me and what I learned from him. And when I was growing up, I kind of knew, I knew very little about him, and they were so gracious and so loving and so kind. They lived in Seattle, so I only got to see him about once a year. And so each and every time that I got to see them, it was a really special time. And so when I got to learn more about them and their story, it was really impactful and inspiring to hear all about it. And so I'll kind of show you guys a picture of them. That's my grandma and my grandpa. They're cute. They're super cute. They're super cute. And my grandpa, Akio Nishizaki, actually passed away 2 days after my 18th birthday. And if there's anything that I wish that he could be here. So I know that he's smiling and seeing each and every one of you guys. But the reason why they have inspired me was their story. And I really got to learn their story from reading their biography. And so that's really kind of what inspired me to continue going and have the courage each and every day. And really being a Japanese American and kind of what they went through in World War II. My grandma, when she was 10 years old, was actually in the Japanese American concentration camps. And just hearing about her story and how she was able to get through all that and still be just an amazing woman. But I really want to focus on Akio and the story. And I'll kind of share with you a little bit about him. He was born here in the U.S. and had to go back to Japan when he was 2 years old. His dad opened Nishizaki drugstore in Japan, and ran the drugstore until it was bombed in World War II. And his mom was actually so sick during all the air raids that he had to put her on the back of his bike and get them to safety. Their house was also bombed in the air raids in Japan too. So just hearing those things right out the gate, I was like, wow, like I had no idea that was part of their story. But it was something very impactful to me to hear about all the things that they had to go through to overcome. And so, he came to the States when he was 20 years old and did not speak any English. So I couldn't imagine what it was like to kind of go through all that, to come to the States, to learn English, to go to school. And right when the Korean War broke out, he was actually drafted to go into the army. And so, I just couldn't imagine everything that he had to go through to learn, English and to also to serve, the United States in the army after all that he's been through. He eventually got out of the war about 2 years later, and he came back to the States, and he went to the University of Washington, transferred, and then came back to the University of Washington. And he eventually graduated from the College of Pharmacy and worked as a pharmacist for 34 years until he retired. And he got married, he had 3 kids. My dad is the oldest, my aunt, and then my uncle. And my aunt actually passed away when she was 14 years old. And so just hearing all the different things that has been going on in his life, and I'm like, I just couldn't imagine. Again, I'm really honored to call him my grandpa and really to be named after him because of just how much that means to me, just to hear about the courage that he continuously had to display. And so, what is courage? And so according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the definition of courage is mental or moral strength to venture, persevere, and withstand danger, fear, or difficulty. In my story, courage is generational. And it makes me proud to carry the family name. And so it took courage for my grandpa to never give up and to keep on going, no matter what. Every story, it takes a hero to have courage to overcome the challenges and create change. Akio Nishizaki is a hero of mine. So I face fears every day. I have anxiety, I face adversity, and negative emotions on the daily, much like each and every one of you guys. And so what inspires me is hearing his story and like, okay, if he can go through all that, if he can be an amazing man, if he can be an amazing husband and raise an amazing family, and I can be standing in front of you guys today, I can continuously overcome these fears of not being good enough, or these fears of making a mistake, or sounding stupid, whatever it may be. I face them on the daily, and so it helps me to kind of dig into that, to dig into my story, and know that, I got my grandpa looking after me, and just really know that I want to make him proud. And so I thank each and every one of you guys for being here. It means a lot. And, one thing that always kind of stuck with me was don't let your fears get in the way of your dreams. So one last thing I'll kind of leave with you guys is, who is your hero? What legacy do you want to leave? Thinking about that, knowing that you can continuously make that legacy each and every day with the decisions, with the connections, by coming to this event, by hearing about it on Google, and something like this is overwhelming, and getting yourself out of your comfort zone. That is a step towards creating a great legacy for yourself. And I'm so grateful to be in a room with all you guys, because you guys are amazing, have done great stuff, and I'm continuously learning from each and every one of you guys. So you guys already have left a great legacy, and always know, don't let your fears get in the way of your dreams. Continuously pursuing that, and create a great legacy for yourself. I want to say thank you to my VIPs. If you're a VIP, wave your little wristband. Woo! Thank you so much for you guys. Also, I want to thank my sponsors. You guys have been absolutely amazing. Equitable Advisors, Quantum Health, Top Consulting, Smart VAs, and Cover My Meds. Thank you all for being our platinum sponsors. Without you guys, this event would really not be what it is today. So you guys mean so much. All the other sponsors and organizations, just thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate your support. It means the world to me. Lastly, I really want to show you guys all the different sponsored videos. So tune in. You're going to hear from each of the platinum sponsors. And then we'll introduce the discussion panel.
This is Sarah. 6 months ago, I started working with her when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. As part of the Quantum Health team, I talked to Sarah about her treatment, her frustration, and her fears. But today, Sarah finished her last chemo treatment. It's a day that will be forever remembered by Sarah and her family, and by me too. My name is Paige, and I help change lives. Quantum Health. Change your life today. Yours.
Are you sick and tired of being overwhelmed and afraid you'll never scale your business? Meet Smart VAs. Unlike many virtual assistant agencies that only assign one dedicated virtual assistant, we provide flexibility for growing businesses by assigning a team of experienced virtual assistants that can do different tasks to support your continuous growth. Visit smartvas.online to book a free discovery call and start growing your business.
Are excited to be a sponsor of tonight's Diverse Network event. Since our founding in 1997, diversity and inclusion has been a core principle at Top Consulting. It's part of our DNA. If you would like to learn more about us, check us out at www.topconsultinginc.com. Thank you and have a great evening.
Within Cover My Mess, we are encouraging and we celebrate the uniqueness that everyone brings.
You can show up every day as you are and you'll be accepted.
People can be a part of, a group that they feel like they belong.
They can be who they are here at Cover My Mess.
Together we can be more. Together we can think about more. We can achieve more.
The work that we're doing here is important, and diversity, equity, and inclusion is important.
Give it up for our sponsors. And now, I want to introduce you to our discussion panel. We have Dr. Marlon Moore, DEI strategist, consultant, and author of Diversity Starts With You. Everyone give a round of applause for Dr. Marlon Moore. We have Dr. Pascal Lasambe. He's a speaker, consultant in education, organizational culture, and DEI at Synergy Consulting. Give it up for Dr. Pascal Lasambe. Last but not least, the head of diversity, inclusion, and belonging at Quantum Health, and author of Interrupt, Finding Your Voice Amid Diversity, Dr. Dolores Jones. Guys, our the Chicago Bulls. Gotta introduce you guys. Yes, take a seat. Wow. It's awesome to be on stage with a room full of doctors. I feel out of place a little bit, but man, you guys are so special. So really just want to give a moment to kind of introduce yourself, your organization, and what inspired you to start your own business.
So Jordan, first of all, thank you for putting this event together. Thank you for the invitation. Really appreciate all that you continue to do for all of us. Marlon Moore, I'm the former Chief Diversity Inclusion Officer for Huntington Bank. Was there for 8 years, had a phenomenal journey, had a lot of successful accomplishments with the organization, but after George Floyd was murdered, there was a lot of calls, a lot of questions, a lot of companies, big, small, global, international, local, who wanted to understand what they could do. And so I stepped out amid adversity and started my own consulting practice, which is designed to do 4 things. 1, assess your current state. 2, create strategic objectives with strategic initiatives and key performance indicators. 3, provide training and group facilitation. And 4, ongoing consulting services. Now, as much as I love training, I am a training fanatic. I don't just do training. Let me just put that out there. Companies who just want to check the box and say they've done some level of bias training or we've got together to talk about race, that's not good enough. If you want to move the needle, we have to have strategic objectives that are aligned with the change we want to see. Your workforce, your supplier base, your culture. And then you have to have initiatives to support that and key performance indicators to hold you accountable and to measure your successes. So that's why Marlon Moore Consulting was started.
Awesome, love to hear that. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Excuse me. Hello, everybody. So good to see you all. It's a joy and it's an honor to be here with you. My name is Dr. Pascal Osambe. I am co-founder, Chief Content Officer of Synergy Consulting Company. And much like Dr. Moore has spoken about so well, in this work of diversity, equity, and inclusion, there is a need, there is a tangible need right now as our workforce becomes more diverse, as our society becomes more diverse, to be able to really step in the gap and create these inclusive environments, ones of belonging. And so at Synergy, we saw a unique opportunity. I'm a neurobiologist and also a social scientist as well. And so I saw a real opportunity, and I might geek out a little bit on the brain today, so just get ready. I saw a unique opportunity to combine those two worlds, really bring this fundamental basis of how our mind works with this work of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we provide training, we provide consulting services, we provide assessments, one-on-one coaching, etc. And we have the privilege of leading some major initiatives in different cities in the region. And so it's a privilege to be here and an honor to really spend some time with you today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Pascal.
Okay, I'm Dolores Jones, and I head diversity and inclusion for Quantum Health. And my story is kind of a little in reverse because I am also an entrepreneur. I have my own consulting practice. I have worked across business sectors. I'm an author, and I'm also an adjunct professor. So I was really enjoying doing that work on my own. I've kind of gone back and forth in and out of organizations over the past 20 years. So I launched my consulting practice after I left a role in a large Fortune 500 company, but then I keep getting called back into organizations because there is an opportunity now to support organizations in really standing up diversity and inclusion. So what I've gotten really good at is building infrastructure, helping organizations who have a first-time diversity officer or leader and aren't quite sure where to start. So all of those things that you've heard already around diversity strategy, infrastructure, governance models, building that bridgeway, and most importantly, getting a common understanding across the enterprise of exactly what diversity and inclusion is. So I have a little bit of both in terms of that entrepreneurial spirit that I can also bring into organizations.
That's awesome. Thank you all so much for sharing it. You guys are inspiring. You really are, just hearing about your journey. And that's really where I want to take us next is, so in Latin, courage means heart, which we often translate as passion. So finding our passion takes finding our identity and purpose in life. And so what we often talk about is our why. You hear that often. And so how did you guys find your why? And what advice would you give to somebody who's just getting started or even struggling to find their why? And I'll kind of start with you, Dolores, and we'll kind of go back.
The why. So my why has been a constant. You have to have a curiosity about people. You have to have a curiosity about culture. You have to have that just passion, and most importantly, be able to go where that curiosity leads you, a natural curiosity. And I've had that probably since I was a kid. I've always been interested in other people, in other cultures. I've traveled around the world in other areas, both Western and non-Western. Why? Because I'm just a curious person. So I think that's been my rock in terms of where do you start? So I think you start with your own natural curiosity and passion for the work.
That's amazing, yes. I was a young boy, I grew up in post-apartheid South Africa, so I'm a product of Nelson Mandela South Africa. And so as we grew up in South Africa, we really watched a model of unity and reconciliation that was very powerful in Nelson Mandela's leadership and work. And as a young boy, sitting there and watching him lead with some core tenets of the philosophy of Ubuntu, or the shared humanity, as we call it. I am because we are. This concept of the shared humanity became very tangible and powerful for me. And now as I've grown up and really looked at this question of belonging, this question of human flourishing at an even deeper level, it was in me. It became such a passion for me, and I would find myself daydreaming, and as I daydreamed, I was thinking about this work, and so at the core of it, it is a passion of mine. It's something I think about a lot and think about how to bring it into different sectors that I am involved with. And I encourage everybody here, as you discover those passions, as you find yourself in a state of flow, as you find yourself in a state where you just know you're passionate about something, find somebody who's doing what you want to do, and you'll be so surprised, as I was surprised, how willing people are to really offer guidance and help out. As we study kind of developmental biology, you will see that as people go up in age and as they go up in life and develop more, part of what they want to bring to the table is leaving a legacy. And you can be part of that legacy. And with us being so interconnected today with social media and not having to go to different places or spaces, but we can do so virtually, to reach out and really sit under the tutelage of somebody who can really inspire you and guide you, much as my colleague said here, in a strategic manner towards that goal. And those are the things I did, and as a result, I've sat under so many wonderful mentors who have really allowed me to nurture my why a little bit, clarify it even more, and really guide me along on this journey.
I love hearing that. Love hearing that.
Very powerful. So I'm gonna do something I probably shouldn't do. So you said what is our why, or what's your why? Yeah, I guess that's why I started with. It's like just that. I shouldn't answer a question with a question like why. I'm gonna say what. Like, what is he talking about? No, let me get to my point. So Jordan's like, come on, Marlon. So what intrinsically motivates you? What intrinsically motivates you? If nobody's watching, you don't have to get up. What do you get up for every day? I'm a change agent. I like to disrupt the status quo. I want to see a more equitable and inclusive society. You don't have to pay me to have this conversation. Although it's nice. You don't have to. I just happen to be an author. I just happen to be a consultant. I just happen to be a former chief diversity officer. But at the end of the day, I'm a human being who wants to see a world where each and every one of our kids, grandkids, nieces, and nephews have the same opportunity. That's it. That's why I exist. That's why I'm here today on a Friday. I should be at a game tailgating, but I'm here.
And we'll have it on Thursday next time.
But it's about making a difference. And here's the thing, I wasn't always here. I had a life-changing experience in 2012 when I was invited to go to Madison, Georgia to do research on our family in preparation for a family reunion. Was connected to my family, knew my grandfather, grandmother, great-grandfather, great-grandmother, but that's kind of where it stopped. And so I took this journey to Madison, Georgia, and found myself in a courtroom, small courtroom, documents from the 1800s, looking at a census report, and I saw my great-great-grandfather's name, Robert Lee Sims, 1864, laborer, kids, Pauline Sims, Matthew Sims. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, 1864, laborer, he was a slave. So you mean to tell me my great-great-grandfather was a slave? Then it got deeper. We found his father and his mother. And they were born on the Perry plantation. And guess what they were? Slaves. So at that time I had my master's degree and I said, what a world, what a society we live in. That this descendant of slaves can have a master's degree, be a corporate executive, be in the room with board members who don't look like me, and you mean to tell me I have an opportunity to influence change where my great-great-grandfather and grandmother were servants and they didn't start at the same starting line that others have? So you mean to tell me if you want to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, I'm your change agent. Because there's a whole lot that as a society we have to think about. Some of our great-great-grandparents didn't read, couldn't read, didn't have an opportunity to read. You know what happened if they got caught reading? So that's my why. And anyone who wants to be on that journey, I'm all for it. Those who don't, we'll continue the good fight, but each and every one of us has an obligation to ensure a better society than we found it. So, what are we going to do?
That's so powerful. Wow, that's amazing things. And even just for me, just learning each and every one of you guys' story of how you guys got here today. And all of our, at the end of the day, like you said, it comes down to belonging. It comes down to what we want to do, what gets us up in the morning. And so, But in order to create change, you must have the courage to consistently overcome fears, overcome anxieties, overcome negative emotions. We're humans. We face it each and every day. I struggle with it each and every day. So give us some insights to the struggle that you guys face and what helps you to overcome those challenges and achieve growth.
I've just finished, so I'll start somewhere else.
Pascal?
Yeah, let's start and give me an opportunity to go into the mind a little bit, if you will. As we look at our brains and our minds, the brain is kind of the hardware, the mind is the software that perceives, integrates knowledge, and interprets it, and then you behave in a certain way. When we think about the mind, there are certain defaults that we often go to in order to, when we encounter change, when we encounter different situations that we find ourselves in. And as a result, we might find ourselves in uncertainty or a situation that is not familiar. Your brain loves patterns, it loves predictability because it's asking two questions in every situation. Will this give me rewards, or will it keep me away from danger? Or maximize rewards and kind of keep me safe as well. And so as we look at when we walk into uncertain situations, your brain is making that threat appraisal. And as a result, I discovered something very interesting in that, oftentimes when I encounter change, I default into a certain behavior. And every time I encounter change, I default. But the power of vision is so important. Oftentimes when people encounter a fearful situation and you're looking to push through it and change, we often don't succeed because the future we've never been to unless you're Marty and Doc, and so from Back to the Future. But your brain has nothing to hold on to. But the thing about your mind is that it cannot often tell the difference between fiction and reality. So when you envision yourself doing something, and you continually envision yourself doing something, then it starts to become possible. Your brain anchors and holds onto it, especially when positive emotions are involved. Whenever there's heightened emotions, your brain will start to remember certain things. And as I have come into this work, there are certain things that I fear. I didn't grow up in this country, so will people be looking at me as if I'm not familiar with certain narratives or dialogues? And that's something I had to overcome. Just like Dr. Moore said, that why, that future state, that ideal state has to always be in front of me that I can cling onto. And as I face fearful situations, emotions in themselves are not bad. They're telling you something about the situation and yourself as well. And so I try to pay attention to those emotions. I envision an ideal continually, anchor onto it. I try and pay attention to the emotions I have because they're telling me something about myself in that situation, and routinely going through the exercise of replacing any negative self-talk with positivity, capturing it, reflecting on it, labeling it, and pushing through. And so as I sometimes have imposter syndrome in these dialogues, where I ask myself, am I good enough to be here having this dialogue? I have to remind myself of what my why is, what I've been charged to do, and surround myself with people who will continually encourage me on that journey as well. So those are some tools and tips that I use for myself personally, and hopefully you can glean from that as you face fearful situations to push through.
Yeah, that's amazing. And, there's some linkages here that we all have been connecting around. And in my case, I sort of wrote about it, got it out, journaled. So my book is really both self-awareness, self-help. It's a memoir, and it's something that is designed to help move through the challenges. It's helping individuals find their voice amid adversity. And in this work, you oftentimes, despite the why, despite the curiosity, despite all of the passion, it's difficult work. It's rewarding, but it's difficult. And many times you have to interrupt and find your voice because there's adversity. And so the sort of 5 key points, the first one starts with knowing your roots. And I've heard everyone here go back and talk about that tree. Where did I begin? Who am I? How am I self-aware? What did those before me have to accomplish, to bear, to achieve? And it's your roots that allow you every day to get up and interrupt, to crawl out on that skinny limb, take a chance, and find your voice. The other piece is confidence, likability, because you want to be liked. I mean, we're doing this work, and you want people to not only understand it and believe in it, but you want them to like the work and you want them to like you. The other piece is around forgiveness. You have to be able to forgive every day you get up, because otherwise you won't be able to find your voice, it'll be lost. And think about forgiveness and who you can forgive every day. That is how you continue through anxiety, you continue through fear. Trust and resilience. Being able to bounce back, come back through your own roots, through your own self-awareness, through your own emotional intelligence, how to manage through that. Because otherwise, we live in that space of anxiety and fear. So those are the 5 pieces, dimensions that continue to reinforce me and that I think will be helpful to everyone in order to just find your voice and continue on.
And just to build on that a little bit, Dr. Jones, I love what you're saying about self-awareness. Fear is an emotion. We all have it, so to be aware of that, I think really goes a long way. You all will find I'm a storyteller, so I'm going to share one other quick story with you. Going back to my high school days, I was a high school quarterback, 5'9", I think at the time, 120-something pounds, maybe 30-something pounds. But I was a small guy, right? And one of my best friends was the starting quarterback. He was like 6'3", 210, being recruited by all the top schools. And so, and I was also working. I worked 3 jobs, my senior high school. So one day we're at practice. I'm in with the first string. First play, I throw a touchdown. Quick hitch, go score a touchdown. I'm running, I'm happy, but I'm running to the locker room. So I gotta go where? Work. This is audience participation.
To work.
Okay, gotta go to work. So I'm running, I'm happy, did a great job, get in the locker room, and the coach says, "Hey, Marlon, come here, we want to talk to you for a minute." He said, just want to let you know, we're thinking about starting you at quarterback. Like, what? Me? Well, I mean, I'm flattered, but I'm not going to college for this. Lavelle's a starter, right? He's being recruited. This is his job, right? Like, do you want it or not? I'm like, well, I don't want to mess up his career. I'm working. So in essence, I rejected him. So we go through the season. I never played quarterback, played defensive back. Season was over, and when last practice was over, I boo-hooed. In the middle of the field, when everybody left, went to the locker room, and I cried my eyes out. And for a moment, I couldn't understand, why am I crying so hard? Like, it's just football in practice. What I realized, and what inspires me to this very day, is I was afraid to step up and take my rightful place as the leader of that team. I was afraid of my ability to meet expectations. And at that point in my life, my senior year in high school, I said, I will never, ever, ever in my life, I don't care what it is, jumping off a building, starting a business, you name it, I will never let fear get in the way of me being my best self and living up to my full potential again in my life. You're going to have fear. Be aware of it. Let it fuel you, motivate you, but knock it out the way so you'll never have any regrets.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. And so there's also going to be some audience Q&A, and so be thinking of some questions. We'd love to get you guys involved in being able to ask that. So as you guys are thinking it, after our next question, we're going to take some questions from you guys and get that going. But I want to talk about bias. It's been a hot topic about subconscious and conscious bias. And Pascal, I kind of want to direct this towards you to kind of start us off here, because you talk about one of the primary ways kids learn is through observation. And consequently, modeling good behavior for children is essential, right? And so tell us more about what influences biases and how do we even navigate them?
One thing that we should remember about the brain is it reacts, but your brain is designed to predict. So your brain predicts. And so if you are in a situation where you enter a room maybe and you see a curved-shaped structure and you think, oh, it might be a snake, even though you've never maybe encountered a snake or petted a snake or anything like that, you will get out the way automatically because your brain is predicting what will happen. And so your brain has what they call anchors, your reference points, your templates, that are always stored in your unconscious mind. Your brain has brain states, so they're different. Your brain is very electrical, so there are different states of brain that can occur throughout your day. Early in the morning, or when you're vegging out watching TV, your brain state is an alpha state often. And the alpha state is where you are kind of in that consciousness where you're kind of daydreaming, but that state allows you to really start to look at things and they inhabit your unconscious mind as a result. And so as you watch things, 70% of the human body's receptors are in the eye. And so observation, even though it isn't an image or something that is controversial, your brain is constantly storing these images, especially in those passive brain states. And so when you look at something or when you encounter a situation, your brain responds automatically based on that anchor, based on that reference point. So what happens if you're not in relationship with somebody that doesn't share your identity? What is forming your anchor? What is forming your reference point? And throughout our human socialization, we aren't born into a world that is neutral. We are born into a world that has certain values and beliefs that are taught to us by the adults in our lives. And then we enter institutions that sometimes confirm those values and beliefs. And then we get rewarded for demonstrating those beliefs. And so throughout that, we are getting socialized to believe a certain thing about the world. And bias in itself doesn't have to be a bad thing, but it can be a bad thing. And so the question now is, I can almost guarantee that you might not be able to eliminate your biases, but you will really get better at recognizing them, responding to them, and reframing them. And so as you do things like expose yourself to counter-narratives, other images, positive images of different people groups, you are really moving your anchor. You're moving that reference point so that when you do encounter someone or something that is different from what you are, you can then have in the moment a way to ask yourself a question, reframe it, and have a more positive outlook on that individual and that thing.
Yeah, and I like that notion about the reframing piece, because that's a very, very important part of it. And like you, in a much less technical way and scientific way, I often talk about values and value systems and how early values are formed. And it's those values that anchor us in terms of our belief systems and thus how we think and feel about individuals. And again, the whole point is not to eradicate bias. It is to have you reframe that in a way that changes behavior. Because we all have biases. It's recognizing that and being able then to adjust your behavior accordingly as you learn and grow and become curious about other individuals and their communities. So I think that it begins at an early age. One of the things that I always say is that we aren't here to legislate or try and change an individual's value system. What we want to do is help you understand that, become aware of it, and then be able to adjust your behaviors accordingly. So manage, it goes back to, again, self-managing your own behavior. I mean, when you're thinking and forming opinions and perceptions around other individuals, is that grounded in fact, or is that just based on perceived beliefs over time? And we do have a way of self-managing that. So again, I believe that reframing piece is very important.
They know it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, thank you guys so much. And I do want to open it up. I would love to have you guys ask the panel a question. Something either around diversity, equity, inclusion, or something that they're kind of been doing in their work, or maybe something that has inspired you to ask them about any of the growth or challenges they have come. Yeah, absolutely.
I got a pretty big mouth, so I think it's good. Thank you, George.
That'll work great.
One question, and Marlon mentioned it earlier about George Floyd and what happened in 2020, and then everybody kind of got on board like, oh, we got to have diversity training, oh, we got to do this, oh, we got to do that. Well, for people who have seen the history of this country, we've had lots of civil rights movements, we've had lots of changes that have come down, and then we've kind of reverted a little bit back. How do you all think we're going to continue to move forward and not just be a passing fad? How do we keep going forward?
I think we continue to hold folks accountable. This, I have the ability to read people and read rooms and read situations. And it's somewhat disheartening to see how many people just talk about this work now because it's the right thing to do or the right thing to say or the world's watching. We have to hold people accountable in how we spend our money, the jobs we support, how we let them know how we feel. That's the only way it's going to change because, see, at its core, this work is really supposed to be about performance, right? If we have a different group of people around the table putting together a product or service, we're supposed to be better, right? So it should make total sense of why we're doing this work, why boardrooms should look different, why executive levels should look different. But why aren't they? Because those people in power don't want to change the power structure. And until somebody holds them accountable by not buying their product, by not supporting their business, they will see much of the same thing. So if we want to change it, we have to hold people accountable.
Another thing I would say is this concept of the shared humanity is really something that is the core of the work we do. And the shared humanity starts with an understanding that every behavior is motivated by a desire to fulfill a specific need. And in elementary school, when I was doing division problems, the elementary school teacher said, find the common denominator. That's our humanity there. That we can connect with each other on that level. Now, we know that part of my humanity, part of your humanity, is the differences that we bring to the table. So even though we have that common foundation, there are certain dynamics throughout historical contexts that paint the way we see the world. And the mind, again, the mind is always eavesdropping. It's always paying attention to what is important. In those critical periods of neuroplasticity as children and even into adulthood, our minds are really understanding what is important to look at. So for a mother or a father that sends their child out, in our shared humanity, maybe they go on a drive or something, we can understand the need for the mother or the father or the guardian for that child to be safe. But layered on top of that is an added burden because of a certain identity marker based on what group identity you share. And even though I am uniquely me, a part of who I am is painted by the social categories through which people look at me as well. And so our shared humanity is important to tap into that very thing that allows us to understand people's fundamental needs and then understanding how to support one another from there. If we study historical movements, we can see that we need a culture of interdependence here. We cannot be in our siloed corners trying to walk towards unity. We need each other. We need each other to really, because there'll be a situation where you might be in a room that I'm not in. So how are you holding space for me in that room? How are you advocating for me in that room? If I'm in a meeting and I say something, are you going to give me credit for that statement and hold space for me like that and be an ally in that way? If I say something or do something, are you going to show reciprocal allyship to me by showing me a little bit of grace and understanding me and why I believe a certain thing? Because there might be a time when I need that same grace as well. And so we need each other in this dialogue, in this narrative. And as we watch Nelson Mandela's South Africa, that's something he emphasized and something that we need to continually walk towards while holding each other accountable. Let's bring people up to the standard rather than lower our standard as well.
Thank you so much for that. We do have time for one more if someone has a question. Robert?
So, you talked about it a little bit, Dr. Pascal, about social media and how it's leading us in a positive direction. But I want to talk to the panel and just get your guys, because you're business owners and consultants. Where do you think, because we're at a pivotal moment in our history, where do you think social media is going to progress us in a better direction than where it's kind of pushing us now? Just kind of, dig into kind of media and how it's, kind of forcing us to divide in diversity. And how do you think that these next couple years are going to lead us in a more positive direction, a more inclusive direction, a more unified direction? Because, media is kind of just dividing us right now. What do you guys see as consultants and business owners where that can lead us down a more positive way?
I mean, social media can be very powerful because of, again, we are visual beings. And when we want to produce counter-narratives to what is existent, we have a tremendous opportunity to influence the way we see the world. And as we become more intentional about that, we can literally start to change people's reference points. But to your point, what social media is doing, there was this wonderful book by a British neuroscientist called The Master and His Emissary, where he talks about the left brain and the right brain. And even though that is a myth, the brain works together all the time. What happens is, if you look at your right frontal lobe, it's a lot bigger than your left. And so a part of that is the fact that relationships are an essential part of the human experience, the human existence. But the left part of your brain is largely responsible for putting things in categories. So as we see the best of people, as we see different people saying different things, etc., we have a tendency to categorize things. And in the absence of relationship, more of that right brain type of thing, we are dominating our worlds with that categorization. And so if we leave it up to media or these what they call gatekeepers to really paint a picture of who people are or who we believe people to be, then we might find ourselves in a situation where we tend to oversimplify and present oversimplified truths of individuals. And so if we are intentional to stand in that space and really present stories and narratives, the power of storytelling, that's why I'm so drawn to this man and this woman right here, is because we have a unique ability to really, the thing that sets humans apart from other people is our ability to step into somebody else's shoes as they're telling a story. I was there when Dr. Moore was telling his story. I was feeling similar emotions. I feel a unique connection to him. But if we are in our siloed corners and don't take the time to be intentional about relationships, then we underutilize something that is so powerful and essential.
And I'll just add quickly to that around the power of dialogue. And so I think as we move forward in terms of D&I, it is going to be so important, aside from the images, aside from, social media, aside from all of that, to find our common ground through dialogue. Having those conversations, getting connected around backgrounds, backstories, valuing both our diversity and then at the same time our commonalities. So I think in order to sort of right set, if you will, some of what we see in the world, we should talk about that, because that brings an illumination, understanding, an explanation for all that is taking place. And I do want to just kind of close with this piece. With the protests last year, my son said, and we had all of that going on here as well, and he told a story about having a curiosity to, I've got to do it, Mom. I've never been on the front line. I just feel a calling. I have to experience it. And so aside from seeing what's on the local news,